My dad looked me dead in the eye and said, "You work so your brother can have a good life. That's how families work." My mom just nodded, so I packed my things and left. Let them learn what life costs without their personal ATM. Hi, I'm Emma, 29F, and up until about 6 months ago, I thought sacrificing for family was just what you did. That loving your parents meant helping them stay afloat. That being a good daughter meant picking up the slack, even if that meant drowning quietly while everyone else thrived off your effort. But eventually, I learned the difference between supporting family and being used by them. And the lesson came with a slap, so cold it still stings when I think about it. Growing up, I was always the responsible one, the one who brought home good grades, took care of my brother when he forgot his homework or missed the bus, and quietly handled everything no one else wanted to deal with. Our household revolved around one golden rule: don't upset Ryan. Ryan is my younger brother, 27 now, and for as long as I can remember, he's been spoiled rotten, failing classes. The teachers were against him. Crashing the car, just a mistake. He's young, spending rent money on gaming chairs and clubbing. He's figuring himself out. My parents made excuse after excuse, throwing money and second chances at him, like they were trying to pay their way into his affection. Meanwhile, I got the opposite. I was the investment, the reliable one. My parents loved to brag about how hard I worked, how mature I was, how I got a scholarship, how I bought my first car without help. But all that praise came with a leash. Because once I started earning, suddenly I wasn't their daughter. I was their emergency fund. At first it was small, a few $100s to help with utilities, then $1,000 for dental work, then Ryan's car insurance, then his credit card, then rent when he couldn't find a job that matched his vibe, then just a little help to fix the roof. I justified it all. They raised me right, fed me, clothed me. This was just my way of giving back. But the thing is, it never ended. I was working 60-hour weeks in tech consulting. I paid my own rent, my student loans, and still sent $1,200, $1,500 a month to my parents. And somehow, I was still made to feel guilty every time I said no. One weekend last December, I visited home for my dad's birthday. Ryan showed up late in a brand new car, a sleek, expensive, fully loaded SUV, the kind that screamed luxury. I blinked. He walked in with that smug swagger he always had, tossed his keys on the table, and said, "Guess who finally upgraded?" Everyone cheered. My mom hugged him. Dad beamed like Ryan had won a Nobel Prize. I stood there frozen. How did he afford that? And then I found out. Over dinner, my mom let it slip that they'd used part of the emergency money I sent in November, the one I wired because Mom said the furnace had broken and Dad was behind on medication, to help Ryan with the down payment. My stomach dropped. "You mean the emergency money, the $1,000? Oh, don't be dramatic," my mom said, brushing it off. He needed a reliable car. That old one was falling apart. I looked at Ryan. He didn't flinch. "Yeah, and I work hard too, you know. I'm tired of getting judged for not being at your level. Emma, let me have one nice thing." "You don't work," I said. "You quit your job 2 months ago because they asked you to show up on time." He shrugged, not my vibe. And then, my dad, my father, who I had just helped avoid getting evicted 3 months ago, leaned across the table and said something that will stay with me for the rest of my life. "Emma, you work so your brother can have a good life. That's how families work. You're the strong one, it's your job." I laughed, thinking he had to be joking. But he wasn't. He looked me dead in the eye and said it again, slower. "You work so he can live better. That's just how families support each other." And my mom, she nodded, didn't say a word. Not one word in my defense. She just kept cutting her chicken like she hadn't watched me break inside. Something went quiet in me. I didn't yell, didn't throw my plate, didn't cry. I waited until dinner was done. I thanked them for the meal, went to the guest room, packed every single item I'd brought. And the next morning I left. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't take their calls. Didn't respond when they tried to message. I turned off autopay for all the bills, changed my number, and finally, stopped bleeding myself dry for people who saw me as a wallet with a heartbeat. It was the first time I'd ever gone no contact with my parents. I'd always been the one who fixed things, reached out, apologized, even when I had nothing to apologize for. But after that dinner, something in me had snapped, not like a sudden break, but like a rope that had frayed for years, finally giving way. I didn't owe them my money. I didn't owe them my silence. And I definitely didn't owe them a front row seat to my burnout, while they cheered Ryan on for existing, For the first few days, I kept expecting panic to set in. Regret, guilt. But it didn't. Instead, I felt something else. Relief. Like I could finally exhale for the first time in years. I didn't have to check my phone constantly for passive-aggressive texts. I didn't have to wonder if that urgent help needed message was another manipulation tactic. I didn't have to dread birthdays, holidays, or any moment where my love was measured in dollar signs. Of course, the silence didn't last. By day 4, the messages started rolling in. Mom, can you at least let us know you're okay? Dad, ignoring your family is not the answer. We just need to talk. Come home. Ryan, so what, you're rich now and think you're better than us? I didn't respond to any of them, not because I wanted to punish them, but because I'd spent my entire life managing their emotions at the expense of my own. Now, I needed space to hear my own voice again. I focused on work. I poured myself into the project I had put off for months, a startup client I'd been too exhausted to take on. I hit the gym, I started journaling. I even booked a solo weekend retreat in the mountains. No Wi-Fi, no phone signal, just snow, firewood, and silence. And in that silence, I began to remember who I was before I became someone else's emergency fund. I was kind and smart and capable of joy. I wasn't selfish for wanting peace. I wasn't cruel for saying no. I wasn't heartless for drawing a boundary. I was healing. But my family, they were unraveling. I found out from my aunt, dad's sister, that things had shifted back home. With the bills no longer magically covered, tensions rose fast. The heating bill went unpaid for 2 months. Ryan defaulted on his car payments. My parents stopped attending their fancy Sunday brunches. Even Mom's Facebook posts, always bubbly, curated nonsense, started sounding bitter. They weren't worried about me. They were worried about the vacuum I left behind. Because when you stop being the glue, people finally realize how many cracks they'd been pretending didn't exist. A month after I left, I received a handwritten letter from my mother. That alone was unusual. I don't think I'd seen her write something since my middle school permission slips. Inside was a folded note and a dried flower. She wrote, "Dear Emma, I don't know how we got here. I keep replaying that night in my mind. I should have said something. I should have stopped your father. The truth is, I've been silent for years because it was easier. But silence is a choice, and I see now how much it cost you. Your father won't say it, but he's not okay. None of us are. Not because we lost your money, but because we lost you. Come home if and when you're ready. Not as our provider, just as our daughter. Love, Mom." I read it 3 times, and I cried. Not because it fixed everything, it didn't, not even close, but because for once, someone acknowledged the cost of what they'd done. I didn't write back immediately. I gave myself another month. I kept living. I traveled for work, redecorated my apartment, even adopted a cat I named Iris. Then one Saturday afternoon, I drove to my parents' house. Not to stay, but to talk. I didn't bring gifts, I didn't bring guilt. I brought myself, the version of me they hadn't bothered to see in years. My mom opened the door. She looked smaller. She didn't smile right away, but she stepped aside. Inside, the house felt still, quiet, not warm. Dad was in the living room, sitting on the edge of the couch like he was bracing for impact. I sat across from him. The conversation that followed wasn't some big movie-style reconciliation. There were no hugs, no dramatic confessions, but there was honesty. I told them everything, from the way they dismissed my hard work, to the way they praised Ryan's mediocrity, to the financial lies, the guilt trips, the expectation that I'd carry all of them without question. I said it calmly, clearly, and I didn't flinch. And when I was done, my dad, always so proud, so controlling, said something I never expected. "You're right." He looked at the floor. "I didn't see it before, but I do now, and I'm sorry. Was it perfect? No. But it was real." I left that day with no promises, no commitments, just clarity. I told them, "I'm not your bank. I'm not your backup plan. If we rebuild this relationship, it has to be based on respect, not obligation." They agreed. Ryan, of course, never apologized. But that's fine. I wasn't waiting for it anymore. Because I finally understood something important. You don't have to stay where love is conditional. You don't have to keep proving your worth to people who only notice you when you're useful. And walking away doesn't make you cruel. Sometimes, it's the kindest thing you can do for yourself. 6 months later, I'm still working, still saving, but now it's for me. I used to feel like I had to earn rest. Now, I take it because I deserve it. I see my parents occasionally. Short visits, boundaries in place, no money involved. They're still adjusting to the new dynamic. And that's okay. I'm not responsible for their growth. I'm only responsible for my own. And I've grown more in the past 6 months than I had in the last 6 years combined. I'm not their personal ATM anymore. I'm their daughter, and that will never again be something they get to forget.